President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine ali eno n'abazungu ayogera luzungu ina ensonga zaali mu kuggusa Museveni ebyesi birungi guno omuzannyo yagulinnye gye guva kati nno ebigambo bigenda kwononeka anti ICC International Criminal Court obujulizi kati bweyongedde okuzimbagala era Mwami Museveni abule ennaku mbale ebigambo mufwefuukire kaswe tulabe Kyagulanyi Ssentamu ng'ayogera oluzungu n'abazungu ate zije.
We are joined now by the directors of the film, Moses Bueo and Christopher Sharp, and by Bobi Wine himself. Welcome to you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bobby, why did you decide to leave what is a pretty comfortable life? You were very successful as a pop singer. You could have kind of stayed in that lane, but you really decided to risk it all for the sake of your country. But why did you make that decision?
Thank you, Matt. I would say, like I've said before, that I did not make the decision. The decision made me. I did not have so much of an option. For me, it's a reality that I had to live. It's not that I made a choice. Yes, there was a choice of dying slowly, seeing everything around me and everybody around me and all over my country falling apart, and rising to the occasion and doing something. So I was just kicked out of my music because my music is banned in Uganda and it can't be played on radio and I cannot perform. That's why now most or all of my time is devoted for fighting for freedom.
Moses, you grew up in Uganda and unfortunately as a result of the film have had to be exiled from your homeland. But when did you become aware of Bobi Wine, both as a performer and then later as a political figure?
Bobi, his music has always been consistent, and he has been a conscious musician in Uganda for years. So as a young man, I followed his music and I loved his music. I must say I was a very big fan. At some point, in school, me and a friend mimed some of his music, and so later on, working on the film with Christopher, the first day I was quite starstruck when I met Bobi. So, anyways, when Bobi became active in politics, he was speaking to my heart. He was saying the things I wanted to hear. As a young man, I had never voted in an election in Uganda. I wasn't looking to go to political events or or act on any way. But Bobi Wine was asking all of us to get involved, all of us to do something about the goings on in our country. So working on the film has been a blessing and an honor for me. This is something bigger than anything because it's a story of our country. It's a story of liberation, and yeah.
Yeah, and Christopher, I think it's a story that's bigger than Uganda. For you as a filmmaker, what point did you realize that this is a story that is going to really resonate with people, obviously within Uganda, but throughout the world?
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I grew up in Uganda myself, and when I first met Bobi and Bobby and I heard their story, I was just completely astounded. Firstly, by Bobi and Bobby, here were two people who were about to embark on this very dangerous, very uncertain mission. And they were in such a great place. They were successful, they had this lovely family, everything was going well. And then they were willing to risk everything for this cause. And it became pretty clear pretty quickly that in Bobi and Bobby, Africa have two heroes.
Bobby, early in your career, you as an entertainer, you're responsible for bringing joy and happiness to an audience, and that's that's not a small thing. But then you evolve into this political figure where really the hopes of a whole country are on your shoulders. How have you managed to negotiate that? of realizing that, kind of as Moses and Christopher have been saying, that you become the symbol and an embodiment of hope for all of Uganda.
Yeah, it is two things. It's both an honor and a very big, strenuous responsibility. It's an honor to be representing the aspirations of an entire generation, because majority in my country are young people. We have more than 85% under the age of 35.
For Christopher and Moses, we see some really shocking scenes in the film, but inevitably, I suspect you shot a lot of things that perhaps you felt you couldn't include because they were too graphic.
Yeah, I mean, we did. Obviously, we edited a lot of different scenes. And originally, in one of the earlier cuts, there was a lot more violence. What the violence we actually end up showing in the film is actually quite mild, to the point that when Bobi originally saw a cut of the film, he said, "Why have you made Museveni look so good?" And at the time, we were like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you just haven't showed the violence." But we then explained to him that the level of violence, it becomes too much. You know, as a viewer, you get overtaken by the horror rather than following the story. And we scaled it right back. But we hope that people appreciate that it's just literally the tip of the iceberg. I mean, what those guys went through, you know, there was lots of people who were tortured. There was people who were abducted and were never seen again. There were many instances where Bobi's friends were killed.
Bobi, of course, we see in the film that you were held in this military barracks in Gulu for a lengthy period of time, and obviously endured, you know, terrible torture there. You know, it's in the interest of the regime not to have any images released of that. It's not like Abu Ghraib, for instance, where some of that got out into the world. But, you know, without wanting to re-traumatize you, it must have been just a terrible experience. We see the physical toll it clearly took on you of the torture you were subjected to.
Yeah, it was indeed horrendous, but I'll tell you, Matt, that I really hesitate to talk about my personal experience and my personal torture, because what I personally have gone through or continue to go through is not even a small, you know, percentage of what other people go through. So many people have been tortured to death. Young men have been castrated, and I'm only glad that, yes, much as what I go through is also horrifying, it is minimized because the regime knows that I'm outspoken and I will expose it out there to the world. I'm not the hero of the film. The real heroes are those people that are unmentioned.
Moses, have people in Uganda been able to see the film?
As we speak, if we screened our film in Uganda, of course, so many people would love to see it. People want to, you know, it would encourage a lot of people that in the end, you know, that this is, the revolution has been televised. But if we screened our film in Uganda today, you know, the place where we would be filming would be closed off, you know, cordoned off, or they would lose their license, and that cinema would not operate
And life
anymore. Yes. Yeah. So Ugandans have not been able to see the film, but we hope that those who have seen it at festivals and at screenings internationally, you know, can carry the message back home. And Nat Geo is planning a release soon on their platform. So we hope that, you know, through the online distribution and the cable TV, Ugandans will be able to see it.
Yoyo President Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine ng'ayogera n'abazungu oluzungu ng'alufuuwa. Ensonga ya film Bobi Wine The People's President gy'abadde ayogerako efuuse Namulanda, efuuse ensonga mu nsi yonna, era erabisizza General Kaguta Museveni buli watuuka bamugamba you are a torturer, you are a torturer, you are a torturer, you are a killer. Byenjogera oba byebbyo naye nga byebbyo kasita byebbyo. Guno Omusango buli watuuka bamulangira obutemu, obubbi, obunanfuusi, obulyake, obutagaliza bannayuganda n'okuba nti atyoboola eddembe ly'abannayuganda nga kivudde ku firimu eno Bobi Wine the People's President eyakwatibwa. Ebikolobero byonna Museveni byadda akola ku bannayuganda n'omukulembeze Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine ebyo byonna byateekebwa mu firimu eno. Kati nno firimu efuuse kagumba weegoge eri Guno Omusango kuba ebigambo kati binene, ebigambo kati bizitowazitowamu era situmanyi waawe binaggwera, naye nga Guno Omusango naye asobeddwa eka mu kibira yeebuuza ebibuuzo bingi naye ate nga ansa naye alina ntonotono mukko kubanga kati ebigambo byasobye alina okuddamu ansa ate nga tazirina, ate nga n'ebikolobero byakoze bingi, buli omu ayeewuunya bwewuunya akwata ku mutwe n'agaana naye ono mukulembeze eki akola abantu be ebikolobero by'ekikaago nga kino. Kale Bobi Wine the People's President film documentary eri ku Disney, eri ku Hulu, n'emikutu emirala egenda kuba eteekebwayo sobola okugiraba neweerabirako n'omanya nti wamma kyekyo tuli luddawa, tuli mu hola eno mu Uganda, tuli mu mbooko, tuli mu tear gas, tuli mu masasi, tuli mu lutalo, nawe neweerabirako n'omanya ebikolobero Guno Omusango byakoze ku bannayuganda okuba Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine yeetaba mu nsonga zino era ng'omulimu gwa Kyagulanyi gwa kulabisa ensi eyongera okutegeera Guno Omusango ebikolobero byakola ku bannayuganda, ebikolobero byakola ku buli omu, ebikolobero byakoze ku bantu ab'enjawulo era nga tulina okusitukira ng'abaategwa ogw'ekyayi ffenna bannayuganda tusobola okubaako kitukola era kyetwekolera ku lwa Uganda yaffe, ku lw'ensi yaffe kyekigenda okutuzimba n'okuzimba ensi abaana baffe gye baleeyagalira. Kale mbaagala nnyo, mwebale kubaako, mwebale kutuwagira, mwebale tugobereranga, nsaba Mukama Katonda abankuumire ate bwe nnaba nkomyewo mbasange tusobole okuddamu okubiwaya. Mweraba banywanyi.